Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Today, Liverpool are taking on Man City, and I don't know about you guys, but I am absolutely buzzing. Darren, before we get started, I want you to tell them how you're feeling about today.
Apprehensive, so I suppose a bit nervous, excited. I haven't felt like this normally going into big games against City, Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal. It's always you only get this kind of intensity going into a game against United because obviously they're our local rivals and it's the one team each time you played them, you don't want to lose or drop points there, particularly at home. But I'm kind of getting that apprehensive feeling now going in against City. Look, we know City today can come to Anfield and it's not really a must-win game for them. They're 7 points ahead of us to the game in hand. Although, albeit you'd rather have the points on the table than having games in hand. But today is a big chance for Liverpool to bounce back, big chance to make that statement again, and a big chance to, I suppose, put the chest out, show why we're champions. But yeah, nervous, excited, but I'm not nervous in the sense that I think we're going to lose. I think for us today, it wouldn't be a great result drawing, but I suppose it would get some form back, it would get some identity back amongst us, it would get some unity back, and the players really have to regroup from John night because Wednesday night at home to Brighton, I thought the performance was awful, and obviously the result. And the most important thing in a Premier League campaign, especially when you are the reigning champions, is all about the outcome. It's all about 3 points. No matter how you do it, how bad you play, how good you are, it's all about the outcome, and that hasn't been going in our favour of late. Obviously, I mean, we've had 4 defeats this season. I think it's been 7 draws. So already we've dropped a lot of points, but so has every other team. And I've expressed a while ago on a couple of shows I've been on that every top side in Europe, from Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, they've all dropped points, every top side this season. Even Paris Saint-Germain, I think they're sitting second or third in the league at the moment. They've all drew a couple of games, lost a couple. So it is a strange, weird season that we're in. We're in, I suppose, dark times and uncertain times, and the football seems to have that as well. Do you know what I mean? It seems to be that all that's going on with football at the moment, but I'm really looking forward to it. Big chance for us to regroup, big chance for us to respond, and I'm certain enough it'll be 3 points today for Liverpool. And as I said, I don't care how it happens once we just got those 3 points on the board.
Oh, mate, I'll be so happy with 3 points. You don't understand. Conroy, how are your feelings? Are you feeling excited for the game, or do you think it's going to be a difficult one? You're on mute, by the way.
Sorry, mate. I've got a habit of doing that. I'm actually very similar. I think Darren summed it up. Nervous but excited is probably the best way. I think I'm always excited for any tops the top 6. It's a bit different this season. Any of them it clashes at Anfield, but with this one it is strange though. It's like we've fell back into that kind of 17-18 form, and it feels like I'm looking for today's performance as I think a win for us is a bit like really important for the top 4, in the sense of if we're winning those games, we're aiming for the title race, if you know what I mean. But really, if we don't make it, we're landing on the clouds. So we're cementing that top 4. Because it's so tight and congested right now, I mean, I think Leicester are winning the now as well. There's a lot of teams who maybe pundits, experts have said they'll fall away. But I mean, even look at Aston Villa. Like, it takes a good team to beat Aston Villa right now. And I know it's a mixture of results, but because of that, there's no easy games, but right now I actually think games against the top 6 is our best chance of cementing the top 4 at the moment. As Darren said, I'm hoping a win would maybe inject that, but it's not even confidence. I don't know if if they just need a bit of a kick up the backside to say, because if you notice this season, it's only really the people I would say who've got the strongest mentality who've actually performed well players wise in Liverpool. And what I mean by that is Andy Robertson's a good example, probably been one of our best players this season. Andy Robertson played for Queen's Park, played for Hull City, got relegated. That's pressure. That's like 50% of people losing their jobs. Henderson, also, he's not always had the luxury. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they're still hungry as players, whereas I'm not saying it's dropped by the rest of the players, but you can just see that it's maybe a mixture of mental fatigue or a bit of just of to get the title was the main thing. And then since then, I don't know if it's dropped a bit. But I agree with Darren. I think a win today, I said this after Tottenham and West Ham, but I'm going for it again. I'm putting my neck on the line. I think a win today could kickstart our season. I'm not saying we'll win the title, but it will give us a bit of hope. And it could maybe, I don't think it will, but it could maybe knock City a bit. I mean, people talk about the Lyon game a lot in the Champions League, and it could be similar to that, because sometimes they do have that tendency to just maybe I mean, even Pep Guardiola's comments after Klopp's comments, safe as you mentioned, like, why is he even mentioning that? Why is he even bringing it up? Like, there is little things that there is risks in there. So that's what I'm hoping for, but I don't know if you feel the same.
So it sounds from what you're saying that there's a small thread still there that the title race is still a possibility. Is that what you're trying to say?
See if it was a normal season, I would 100% say, but it's just like, it's, see when we're lost to Burnley and Brighton, right? I don't know about you, right? But I wasn't that, see the unbeaten run, it was starting to do my head in. I'm not saying I want to lose games, but I felt like I would rather win 4 and lose 1 than draw 5 at home. That's the way I think, right?
Yeah.
People can go on about the Invincibles and stuff, but it's points on the board, right? But it's not, it's the way we lost. See, there's some games where you can just create loads of chances and the other team just to score a 30-yarder or it just works. But it's just been so, after 15 minutes, you thought you were going to lose the game. See, if our form was even a bit better, I would be more confident that we can kick on. So it's the consistency. I don't know if you feel the same. It's the consistency that worries me. You beat Tottenham and you're cutting through them. You're playing brilliant. You're finishing still bad, but you're creating so many chances. And then you play Burnley and Brighton, and you know what they're going to do. So don't tell me they're playing a low block. That's not an excuse, and it infuriates me when people say that. Prepare for the low block then. Try something different. Sorry, it does infuriate me when they say that.
I can see you turning.
It's like, it's not a new thing.
No, you made such a valid point. And the thing is, like, you got to think that Liverpool, we've probably got some of the best tacticians and everything working within the squad alongside Klopp to work. How are we going to start breaking through these teams and everything? And they've got at times 6 days, 7 days to prepare for playing against teams like, all right, Brighton, we didn't have that much of a preparation, but even 3-4 days is plenty of time for them to sit down, analyze the team, find ways to break, even if we know they don't usually play like a low block, but this time they are. How are we going to break through? We've got the likes of Salah, we've got the likes, or we've not for that game, we didn't have Mane, but we've got the likes of Salah, Firmino, Thiago. What are we going to use in our advantage to break down when we know that they're going to go compact at the back and they're going to throw as many men behind the ball as possible? But Darren, I've got a question for you. So this season and more recently, I've heard a lot of pundits saying that when it comes to a Liverpool game, particularly against the lower sides, to be fair, they said it against United as well. In the first 15 minutes of the game, you can kind of establish what's going to happen in the game. Liverpool will let you know within that first 15 minutes if we're here to win the game or if we're here to fight for it. Do you think the same applies for the City game? Do you think we have to watch out for the first 15 minutes, or do you think at any point in the game there can be a change in the waves?
Good question. So if I'm hoping we kind of get more of how the game starts. Look, Liverpool. Look, we talk about Klopp having Pep's card marked. I think City coming to Anfield this time around, it's not going to have that intensity or that same kind of drive as normal because there's no fans there. We see the fans greeting the bus. If any were at the Liverpool and City games a couple of times, which I've been lucky enough to be. There's big atmosphere, big hype around it, and it's a real welcome. This is Anfield kind of territory. It's real. It can be very intimidating for the opposition, which is great for Liverpool. You know what I mean? It's walked into our hands. And then what even more walks into our hands is that's off the pitch, on the pitch where City set up, they go all out, the attackers, and it suits us because we're very good at playing sides that will come out and play football against us, that want to beat us, that want to attack us. But the 5 teams that we've dropped points against this season that have been at the lower end of the table, they haven't. They've set back. They've been very resilient, they've been compact, they've been organised, they've been well drilled, they've been physical, and they've just kept it really simple. They've done all the simple things right, which is a lot easier said than done. And we just have got frustrated through the game. Like there's a lot of those games where you look back on, we haven't had clear-cut chances. We've had a lot of sideways pass and a lot of balls in the box. They're cleared now. And I just think when you're on top, when you've then periods of the game, especially in the first 20, 30 minutes of the game, like Liverpool do, they've a lot of possession, they're going for goal, they're playing through teams. If we don't get good chances, if we're not making them work hard enough, and if we obviously don't get a goal, which we haven't, then I just think we get frustrated, we lose that bit of confidence, and it lets that opposition grow into the game. It was like against United, we played them. United were happy enough to sit back, and we just didn't do enough to score in that game. We're probably a bit unlucky not to get that first goal. But as the game just went on, and you go into half-time, and you can see the Liverpool players haven't scored, and you see the other opposition saying, okay, look, it could be a day here today. Let's just get a half chance, and we can get a goal. Because a lot of the teams we played against, particularly Brighton the other night, they looked more creative going forward than we did going forward against them. Because when we went forward, we just didn't do enough. We weren't clinical enough. We weren't really sharp or crisp as what we know the Liverpool way is. And when they get a half chance, then they look threatening. They're getting free kicks outside the box. They're looking for penalties. And it's psychological, I think. It really is, because when you drop the first couple of points like we did earlier in the season, away at Fulham, away at Brighton, obviously at home then to West Brom, we dropped points, lost away to Southampton, away at Newcastle, dropped points. You can just say it's just right. I've seen this before. It's like watching the same game on rewind. Do you know what I mean? So we just need that. I think that bit of luck, that bit more energy, that bit more spark, and just get that goal. And if we in a lot of them games had a scored first, or probably got the second goal to kill off the game, it would have been a completely different story, and there would have been less questions, let's say, asked. But it's just been frustrating this season, because I do believe we can beat City today, and if we do, then it's probably going to be the likes away to Leicester, home to Everton, that can come out and frustrate us. But this is a chance now to rejuvenate our season, revitalise everything, and just get going now again today, because we've more players coming back, and today can be a big, huge confidence boost, especially at Anfield, because we haven't scored there in a while, but we also haven't won. So it'll be great to get goals today and obviously get the outcome, which is 3 points.
But I've got my dad here on the stream as well. Part tactician, part manager, part
Brilliant.
Just before we go on, my dad actually predicted the 4-0 against Barcelona. I don't know if that was coming from his heart or his head, but how are you feeling about today's game?
To be honest with you, City haven't done well at Anfield. So there's always a mental block when you're playing a team and you don't do well against them. Hence, we refer to bogey teams in football, etc. You have a mental block, and that mental block affects you during the game. Whether that will happen without the crowd, I don't know. But what I do believe is if we score early within the first 20 minutes of the game, I think we'll batter City. I think we'll probably win 3-1. Same sort of scorelines we've got many a time. If we don't score in the first 20 minutes, it could go the other way, what I'm a little bit scared of, because we do have that fear at the moment that we'll concede a goal or, we won't score. So confidence is massive. If you look at the Burnley game, had Origi put that away, we would have been in a completely different situation now, because we could have won that game, would have given us confidence, would have won the next game. Football's a lot about confidence. It doesn't matter who you are, what sort of player you are. You could be Lionel Messi, you could be Mohamed Salah. If it isn't happening for you, it isn't happening for you, and you try harder, and you lose your natural game. So I'm a bit confident because of the fact that City haven't done well against us. But like I said to you, we've got to score in the first 20 minutes of that game, because otherwise it's going to become very, very difficult. A very good football team. Yeah.
Definitely. So, Conroy, earlier this season, City had a bit of a slump in form, and it seems to be part of the Premier League's team season that there's always a moment in time that they have their slump in form. And Liverpool's was after we won the league last season, and that's probably because they were still hungover. But City didn't start this season like the City that we know. And at one point, I thought, you know what, we don't even need to worry about them, and I was very wrong. But do you think it's possible that City has another slump in form, and I don't know, the magic might actually come in our direction? Do you think it's quite possible that will happen?
I don't think City have a slump. I just think they're much more effective against teams. Like, I think we have to not be the red tinted glasses on and appreciate how good a world class manager Guardiola actually is. And actually, what I'm noticing now is, your dad just mentioned, see Salah and Mane out of form. I do feel like Mane's got the potential to evolve his game and push on and maybe be. I genuinely think he could be a world beater, but he just doesn't. His decision making is actually baffling at times. It's sometimes he's like on it, then sometimes he reminds me of Yannick Bolasie, who's unbelievable, but he didn't know what he was going to do. So how does a defender know? But I've noticed recently, I've been watching City, a bit like yourself, Safe, just to kind of, when we're analysing the game, to not just like look at it through Liverpool's eyes and see what they're doing. I've noticed now that, see, if they're playing a front three or whatever formation, when it's against teams who are effective, the players they have on the wings, as much as you might disagree, it's up to you. I think they are definitely more, let's say, I don't know if football intelligence, but they could play in centre midfield. They are quite smart at playing balls through. They know how to beat teams who sit back, because their movement is, I would say, you're seeing it now, their movement is ridiculous. Even Foden, like, I didn't believe the hype, and then I watched him the other day. For his movement for his age, for me, it's like that's like a next level of a player, like in the sense of you could be a great winger, but I think the way Guardiola is tried to get his players to think that when it comes off, that's why his record against teams who sit in is so good. Like, watch that 17-18 season. They can't get near them. They like sit in. It doesn't matter. So that's the thing I've noticed recently, that I feel like City are so good at beating the teams they should beat. And everyone says defence wins your leagues. Of course it does. But beating the teams you should beat is the most important thing. And it's like Liverpool right now. The only thing with City, as I said earlier, is as your dad mentioned, the psychological thing. They have I wouldn't say collapsed, but they have this problem that they overthink and then they get in their own heads. What I could say is, if we win today and we can kick on and actually show some consistency and a bit of confidence, and as you said, a bit of different gameplay, not being so predictable, that I think we can make a statement today. But see if we win 1-0, I don't think that's a statement. But see if we, like, remember in the Champions League 3-0, see something like that. If that happens today, that's I know I'm not as positive as you, but that's what I see. If that happens, we could get back in it. But I don't know about yourselves, but even when City have lost in the past, I've always thought the team who's beat them is played at a very high level. And like even the Spurs game, when Spurs beat them twice, City missed 2 sitters, not this season, sorry, last season. So I think there's so many teams who could collapse. I just can't see City going on a massive losing streak. The only thing I could see is us winning, and then we would have to be ridiculous for the rest of the season. I don't know if you agree with that.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if we can get that sort of consistency going.
Yeah, that's it.
Like you guys were saying earlier, it's literally a freak season. I think Darren was saying it, where anything and everything is possible. I mean, Man United were at the top of the table and they managed to lose to Sheffield, who only picked up their 2nd win in the season, which honestly, I don't even know what the odds on a game like that would be. But
I was going to put it on. No, I wasn't.
You're wearing a nice Armani jacket and everything. So, yeah.
No.
Yeah, but for today's game, yeah, and the thing is, one thing I've realised is whenever a big team comes to Anfield, they look very, very different. And I mean, I'm just going to pick out the obvious games. Barcelona in the Champions League semi-finals. I've never seen a team like Barcelona with all 11 players with wobbly knees. Like, I feel like Messi wouldn't have been able to walk in a straight line because of the pressure coming out from the stands. And I think Man City, when we played them and beat them 3-1, it's the build-up to the game, the everything happening around Anfield, the stands and everything. I'm going to try to share some footage while you're not talking. I'm playing around with StreamYard a little bit. But do you think that now this season, the fact that we have no fans, do you think City are going to have that same sort of intimidation? I'm going to ask you, Darren. Do you think that intimidation is going to have any impact? In fact, without the fans, do you think there is an intimidation in Anfield?
Yeah, I think just coming to Anfield and playing against a side, particularly now that we're reigning champions, the history, the traditions it has, it's one of the really unique stadiums in European football that when you come to, you're reminded of the history, just the area that it's in, how congested it is. It's a real working class area. So I think going there alone will have some intimidation, but it's not going to be the same with thousands lined out on the street and meeting up to greet the buses and to intimidate City. So that's the only thing that, and then there won't be obviously the stands in the stands that'll be singing that hard too. It won't be the same if you'll never walk alone for the introduction into Anfield. So it won't be the same, but it'll still have something there which I suppose will work in our favour. But it's up to the players on the ground, that pitch, to be high pressing from the get-go, have that intensity, have that energy, and just put City straight away in the back foot. And that's something that they have a chance now to do today. So it's all the onus is on the players, I believe, today, and on Jurgen Klopp to try and just have some of that energy. And then I think with Henderson, which I predict he will be back in midfield today, will be just brilliant in there to just give them players a gene up and just have that, I suppose, that focalness he has in midfield and that energy, that spark, that creativity, that intensity. That's what we need today. And he can be like one of the fans say, playing in the middle of the park. So it's not going to be the same, unfortunately, but we hope to have some of that today, I suppose, even some percentage of it.
I hope so. So we'll probably find out the team sheets in probably the next 5 to 10 minutes. So before you guys cheat, I'm going to ask you first, Dad. What do you think our starting lineup today is going to be? For just like coming up to recent games, I'll be honest, I've been caught by surprise, especially the game where Origi started. And me personally, I think that might have been the right decision. We'll get onto that later. But do you think? What do you think today's lineup is going to be?
Whatever Klopp does, I've learned not to question him, because I remember last season we went to the derby, and the team sheet came in front of us, and I saw Shaqiri and Origi, and it left me out. I was like, that's it, he's done. I'm sick of France. I don't know what he's doing. And within, I think, 15 minutes, we were 2-0 up. Goals were scored by Origi and Shaqiri, and we won 5-2. So whatever he does, I have to support him. He's look, some of you haven't been around as long as I have. Well, most of you, but all of you haven't. So I've seen the John Barnes days, and I've seen Liverpool in the 80s. I used to go to all the games then. And you know what? When people talk about 30 years of hurt, I've suffered that 30 years. Klopp's brought it back for us, and I have to trust him in what he does. He's a cautious manager, even though some of us think he isn't. He is a cautious manager. He's a tactician. He does look at what he's got to do. I don't think he'll bring Kabak in today, for the simple reason that he hasn't played in the Premier League or English football, which is very different to football on the continent. He may start with Ben Davies from Preston. Again, I think it's a risk, but he may do that because he's just desperate to get Henderson back into midfield. What people don't realise about Henderson, and this is something you have to look at tactically. You look at Liverpool's games last season. I remember an incident. We were at Anfield. I can't remember who it was, what it was against, but Hendo ran 20 yards and won the ball because he knew that that was the only option the opposing defender had, and he leads our press. Without someone leading your press there, and the intelligence Hendo has, people just don't realise it. If you've ever studied football, you've looked at football from a different angle, instead of just a pundit on the stands, just has a go at everyone. You would realise that he looks around and he sees that defender has one option, and he knows what that option is. That's the natural ability. He closes that off, wins the ball, and we're on a break. And I think Klopp's desperate for that, especially with a team like Man City who like to pass the ball around. If you win the ball back on a press, you're off on a break. They're going to play on their front foot. They're caught in sixes and sevens, and that's when your front three can be effective. We're not effective against the low block because we're not letting teams come at us. We haven't got our best personnel in those positions. It's all new to Thiago. He hasn't played with these players. It does take time. I don't think he's going to risk both Kabak and Davies. I think one player, maybe. He might go with Fabinho and Henderson and a safer option. I hope not. I doubt he will, but he can sometimes surprise you. Definitely bring money in. It will definitely go with Firmino because he hasn't really got many other options.
Yeah.
Salah. Midfield, I think he's still going to go with. He's going to go with Gini, Thiago, and it all depends if he can get Henderson out of midfield. I'd like to see him start Curtis Jones, to be honest with you. Jones, young player, gets a bit arrogant sometimes, doesn't release the ball as quick as he should. But in the last two games, I think he's learned and he's been effective. He drives at teams, and he creates that extra option of someone coming in at you. And when you've got your front three running around like we have, and if their movement's there, and you've got to remember, if our front three get confident, there's no team in the world that can defend against them. It's all based on being confident. If they get that quick shot on goal, a little bit of intricate football going, a bit of gaps, and that all comes from a midfielder joining them because he draws a player away, and that creates the gap. But against Brighton, you saw Salah, he's got 4 people around him. Can't do nothing. It's impossible.
And that's not his game. It's not his game to be like that. He's not intricate. He's so effective. Like at that. Like someone made a great point. I don't think Salah could go to any other team in the world and be as effective as at Liverpool, because Liverpool's system is to get the best out of Salah. And
we're a team that are aggressive off the ball. In football, you have aggression on the ball, and you have aggression off the ball. Johan Cruyff once turned around and said, "Football's it's not what you do with the ball in football; it's what you do without the ball. You only have the ball for an average of 3 minutes in a game." Salah is one of those players who runs for 87 minutes. Anyone who goes to Anfield on a regular basis will see Salah just as soon as the defence on the midfield gets the ball, he's on his front foot, and then he'll come back and he'll go on his front foot. That's the sort of players we have. We need those spaces. When you've got someone like Curtis Jones, someone driving at the defence, and this is why I think it was 2 years ago, say, when we went to the Champions League game, right? I turned around and said to you, if Jurgen plays Chamberlain, because he was at the top of his game, they're in trouble. And he played him, and that's because Chamberlain's got that pace, he's got that drive, he does run in, brilliant with that. And that split their defence all over the place, and it plays for all our other players, and suddenly it's a different game. And so we need someone like that. I'd like to see Naby back. I think Naby, when he does get back, I I was reading a stat the other day, and it's quite shocking that we've won 86% of games that Navigator started in, and only, I think, 32% or 34% that he hasn't started in. So even though we may not see him being effective, he is in some way or manner. But we don't have that driving player at the moment. And I don't think Genie won't drive, even though he can. He's good at it. We've seen glimpses of it. But I think our team's scared to do that at the moment for some reason. And I think we just need to get that mojo back. We saw it against Tottenham. We saw it against West Ham. West Ham are a very good football team. They've won 6 out of their last 7. And, they've played really well. Tottenham, okay, you can say Kane got injured, whatever. They're still a good football team. Mourinho is a master tactician. But we outdid them in every aspect of the game. But sometimes we just lose that confidence. And I think that happens to us when we don't play well for the first 15, 20 minutes. If that first 15, 20 minutes don't go our way, we sort of capitulate and get a very negative frame of mind. And I think Klopp's finding it very hard at half-time to get the players to believe in themselves. And I think that's our biggest problem at the moment.
So I've just seen the starting lineups have been announced, and they're on the screen at the moment. Honestly, I'm good at this taking stuff out.
Fabinho and Henderson centre back.
I told you
because I genuinely thought he was going to bring on Kabak or Davy for today's game. Let me just check. I'm not sure if they're on the subs bench. Yeah, we've got Kabak on the subs bench as well. So we've gone for our standard front 3 there, and I'll be honest, I'm not surprised. But at the back, we've got Fabinho and Henderson in centre back. Which means they're not going to be there to support the midfield or attack. In that case, do you think that's going to have a big impact on today's game?
So if the way think it's hard to know, isn't it? I probably would have predicted that it was going to be Fabinho and Kabak as centre back, and the only reason being is because obviously we've signed Kabak. He's been a long-term target. We were linked with him in the summer. We were willing to pay 20 to 25 million. So obviously the lads there, the recruitment team, have done their homework. He's experienced for a young lad for 20 years of age. To be fair, he's played a bit for Turkey and for Schalke in one of the toughest leagues in Bundesliga, albeit they've struggled this season, and he's been the receiving end of, I think, of 49 goals conceded. It possibly could be, but what I will say is we'll be strong and we'll be tighter defensively, and Jurgen's not risking it today. But I think Curtis Jones starting is good. There's a good omen, a good stat recently that when he starts, we win more games, we score more goals. I just think the front 3 got to be at it today, and particularly off the ball, they got to be that high press and that intensity. We always talk about energy at Anfield, but they're going to have to be just getting stuck in today, be more physical, particularly off the ball. We see a lot of Firmino doing it, although he hasn't been at his best this season. But I think Mane tracking back there with Robertson, Salah tracking back there with Trent. We're good enough today to win it. We are the champions. We're at home. We have today to come out and we have to play. We need nothing but a win. So I'm still going to go with a 2-1 Liverpool win, I predict. But it certainly changed a little bit of the outcome with not 1 but 2 of our midfielders now starting at centre back. But as Yada said, look, I trust in Jurgen. I've seen them develop at Liverpool. I've seen how advanced this Liverpool team have become. To be fair, he came in, he inherited the team. He's only spent 100 and something net spend, which is incredible when you compare that to City, Chelsea's. A lot of the top sides in the league, even United or Everton has spent 500 million the last couple of seasons and they haven't touched her. So our recruitment is being spot on, but we just look, we're obviously all questioning FSG now, we're questioning Klopp, we're questioning some players, and that's because we're on the receiving end of late. But when we do get into a bit of form, we get that, I suppose, winning mentality and habit back, which we need to, and stop losing games and dropping points. All's well will end well, I think, again, but it's definitely a big risk today, I think, by the lineup, but we'll see how it goes. We'll know in a couple of hours.
So, Conroy, I was going to ask you the question. So today we've actually started Jones, which I think is the great decision to make, like Darren said. And he's a lot more creative in that position. In fact, he's a lot more ballsy. I don't know how else to explain it, but he's not afraid of going.
He's arrogant. He's quite arrogant in a good way, though. He backs himself.
Yeah, you're right. You need that. So with Jones starting today, let's just assume we go all the way till half-time. We're not having the chances that we need. We're not having, we're not attacking the way we want. Who do you think, firstly, I know I've kind of led to the fact that Jones might be the sub, but who do you think should be our first sort of change? Because a lot of people have been criticising Klopp's decision-making in the last few games, and I think it'll be quite interesting to see what direction you would take things. if we were to be in a 0-0, and let's just say it looked like City were more likely to score at half-time?
Do you know what I do? Your dad made a great point, because football fans are so like they've got such short memories. But see Ox, like, I'm not saying today, but see Ox in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid last season. He was unbelievable, like, and it's like your dad says, pushing forward. Now, I don't think we've got great subs now, right? And people might look at this and say Ox has been average at best, but probably not very good, and I completely agree with that. But there's something about Ox, right? He's such a lottery, but see when, because he is a midfielder, like the other game, he came on, he had a shot, and people are criticising him. But I'm like, he's the only one who's actually willing to take a risk and push forward. Now, albeit he wasn't great. So who's on the bench right now, Safe? So you got
so on
Milner.
the bench, we've got Shaqiri Phillips, Nico Williams, Tsimikas, Kabak, Origi, Milner, Adrian, and Oxlade-Chamberlain.
I think it'd be Shaqiri would be the first change, to be honest. I think he's kind of earned it in the last couple of games, but it's maybe my nostalgic thinking that I think Ox he's always been pretty decent against City when he came on in midfield, but I think that's my heart. I think, to be honest, it'll be, you bring Shaq on if you wanted to mix it up a bit. But you know what, Jones has earned his right. Jones, like, people say if you're old enough, you're good enough. But Jones is, like, for his age, I think he's brilliant. Like, there's only been a few games where I thought he's maybe got a bit too overconfident. I know the mistake against West Brom, but I really like him. And I think he's going to be a constant in the next couple of years. I think he's going to get better. I think his shooting is much better than he's shown it. I watched him a few times and he fluffed shots, and I was disappointed with him, because if you watch, I know the reserves is different, but your shooting ability is still the same. He's got a great shot on him. I actually feel like, for me, Jones is one that I'm not worried about Jones today. The only thing I would say is, you mentioned it in the week, because I know you're desperate for the double pivot with Thiago, right? So do you think that's ever going to happen at Liverpool, or do you think today it's just going to be a flat 3 in the sense of Gini probably at the 6 and Thiago at the 8 and Jones at the 8? Do you think it will constantly? I think that's going to be the future. I think Thiago will have to develop his game, unfortunately.
You're asking me, so
yeah, what do you think?
I'm going to keep it short, because my dad is, like, I don't know, he's up there with tactics. So me personally, I was saying it before, Liverpool is a team that, and I was saying it more about Takumi Minamino, that you can't come to Liverpool and expect the game to change in your favour, because we're a team that's on top of the world. Well, we were at one point, and you can't come into Liverpool and expect things to change for your way. Like, for example, if you watch Barcelona when Suarez went there, they made those tweaks for a player like Suarez. And a player of that quality gets that sort of treatment. But Thiago coming into Liverpool, and I don't think he can expect us to change our front three the way they play with Firmino, Mane and Salah. And he's the one who we expect him to interchange with the most, playing those passes and everything. And I feel that it's a bit of a strange buy from Klopp, because Klopp seems to do things a bit more diplomatically, in the sense that he buys a player, develops them, like what he did with Robertson. But Thiago, we've actually gone for a big name signing. And I think over time, it'll be interesting to see how Klopp treats the situation. Will he start to adjust our front three to fit Thiago's style a little bit more? Or will he expect Thiago to move back into where he was more comfortable while he was back at Munich, so that our team can adjust around him a little bit? Dad, what are your opinions on that?
Do you know Thiago's your Alonso sort of player. He's exceptional at making really long passes and opening up the game. His vision is unbelievable. He is a class footballer. His technique, his ability, unquestionable. We're kind of playing him in the wrong place, in my opinion. I'd like to see Klopp go to like a 4-1-2-3 sort of situation, which is what we kind of did against City when we went away, when we tried to include Jota in the team. And I think that makes us more attacking, and it gives a player like Thiago the ability to spread the ball. Playing him where, he's sort of playing just behind the front three. He's not that short passing player. He's the guy who opens the game up. He unbelievable passes. Crossfield, the ability Gerrard had, the ability Alonso had, and when I was young, it was Jan Mulvey, because that guy never moved out the centre circle, but he just passed the ball over. Unbelievable player.
Yeah.
Fat. He was amazing. So I think we're having to play Thiago in the wrong place. I'd like to see Gini go a little bit forward. I know Curtis Jones is going to run it. And one of the things I saw about Curtis Jones when he came in against Man United was he's starting to break up play in their half. He's a big lad. He knows how to use his body. He gets in front of the player, between the player and the ball when they're coming out. And he starts to break up play. And if as soon as he learns to play the correct pass, look, he's a young lad. It takes time. This is the highest level of football. He's getting his experience. He's an outstanding player. There's no doubt he's going to be a very integral part of Liverpool going forward. And these times are really, really important for him. Look, we don't win the league, and then we don't win the Champions League this season. It's not that we've capitulated as a football team. I'm getting really upset with a lot of Liverpool fans at the moment because they're thinking, if we don't win anything, City won the EFL Cup. They got a £1 billion team. They won one cup, which nobody even cares about, let's be honest. And you can have an off year, and then you can come back. It can happen. It happens in football. There is no home advantage at the moment. If you look at a lot of the teams, they're doing better away than at home. And that's because of the crowd. And Liverpool are known for their 12 man. So at the end of the day, I'm happy he's played Curtis Jones. I'm actually happy he's played Fabinho and Hendo at the back because he's gone for safety. Look, if we win 3-0, where Conroy said, you'd like to see 3-0, 4-0. I don't care if we win 1-0 and it's an own goal.
Oh no, I'd be buzzing with that as well. That was your dream thinking.
95th minute goal.
Yeah,
I'd love to see their faces.
When a season finishes, you never remember one game. It's the whole season. And I still believe, and people will call me crazy and nuts, I still believe we're going to be challenging Man City towards the end of the season for the league. I still believe in 6 or 7 games, it's going to be a very different story and everyone's going to be all like, oh, wow, this league's amazing, because I do believe Man City are going to drop points. And they're going to drop points and they're going to go for a crisis period. Look, Leicester went and beat them 5-2 at their ground. Leicester didn't play the most amazing football. City were awful in that game.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think when Man City when their backs against the wall, when the heads drop, Kevin De Bruyne, these big lads in the team, they don't really come up with it. And that's the thing with City. They don't really do well under pressure. They don't have that mentality, that resilience, that unity that Liverpool have, that Jurgen has implemented to the players brilliantly. And that's been a heart and soul. For City, I've watched a couple of times when the heads drop, they're missing the likes of David Silva, Vincent Kompany over the years, players that would have just grabbed them by the scruff. And it's something that if it does happen to them, if they lose, I mean, they're at the moment, they've a brilliant defensive record, hopefully until today. They're on a really high, and that's the thing with City. When they're on a high, they do well to sustain that and keep it going. But a lot of players go missing when they really need it. And I'm just hoping that's something that happens and we can get some consistency going, because that's what we need. And as you said, you just never know. I mean, look, I've probably given up on us win the title this season, and I'm a very open-minded and one of the more positive Liverpool fans than me. But you have to be sometimes realistic, where I just couldn't see it happening. With all the points you dropped, I think we've given ourselves too much work. But if we win today, if City can have some sort of drop off, because I do believe the cream will rise to the top, it will be Liverpool, Man City come the latter stage. I've no doubt about it. I'm watching United of late, Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Leicester. I don't think they're all going to sustain. They rely heavily on too many players. They're too inconsistent. So let's see what happens. But it's a good point.
Definitely. So speaking about Manchester City,
quickly, we have got a hell of a lot of games. First, they played 2 less than everyone in the league. They're still in the EFL. They're still in the FA Cup. They've got Champions League. They've got a game every 3 days. The intensity during this COVID era in football, there is no way they're going to be able to get through all of that and not lose players. So they are going to go through a difficult time. Credit, if they pull through all of that and they win everything, we've just got to take our hats off to them. No matter how much we hate it, we've got to say, listen, Pep and his team are amazing. But there's a lot of ifs and buts going forward.
Definitely. So we've got the City lineup here, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, starting Foden for me was kind of the same as us starting Curtis Jones.
He's a phenomenal player. He actually is.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's brilliant.
Do you think a game like this requires a bit more experience? Like, I know this sounds strange, but I was expecting to actually see James Milner on our team sheet, simply because his performances, and he's not technically fantastic, but what he does as a player with experience brings a lot more to the starting 11, especially in a game like this, where I'm not going to lie, I feel like this game, and I think all of us believe this, that this game is going to be a decider as to whether we're going to stay up there or if we're going to drop down here.
Yeah.
And them starting Foden is kind of them taking that little risk. But do you think they're coming into the game seeing us as slightly weaker, and do you think that has anything related to Jurgen Klopp's comments about being mentally fatigued, Conroy?
I think, to be honest, it's a strange one for me in the sense of he's put, like, this might come back to bite us, but Zinchenko as soon as that lineup came out, I think obviously Salah, because Zinchenko will be left back, will be looking at that and thinking, I can get at him. And Cancelo, to be fair, Cancelo's been brilliant, so that actually will be some battle against Robbo. If he's at right back, that'll be some battle. But it's interesting to see that they're playing the false nine. I kind of understand that because, let's be honest, Jesus, I mean, he's not scored a lot this season, so Fabinho and Henderson would probably be more confident in that. It'd be a simpler game plan. With Foden, I've got to be honest, he played Liverpool at Etihad last season. I know we were hungover, we were terrible. Robbo was shocking in that game, but he was brilliant. I really like Curtis Jones, but I'm not got the glasses on. Phil Foden is a fantastic player, and to be honest, I think if a lot of Man City fans would actually be annoyed if he wasn't starting today. I think Curtis Jones, though, he must be doing amazing in training for him to be knocking on the door to say I should be starting it. I think he's a very arrogant, confident character, so I think that's maybe why. Possibly, you mentioned the comments, maybe. But as I say, the Zinchenko one, that's a weird one for me. I thought he would have played Cancelo at left back and Walker at right back, unless Walker's injured or anything like that. I don't know if that's changed, but it's a surprising lineup. I don't know. Are you fearful in the sense of we've got beat by City 5-0, we've beat them, we've hammered them. It's not even like I'm dreading this game because we've had every result. I just don't know what'll happen.
No, you saying that, I genuinely feel like we need a game like this. We need a game like this to wake up because if we were playing, let's say, Newcastle, Fulham, whatever this weekend, number one, the build-up to the game is never going to be the same. Secondly, I feel the pressure to win the game is so much higher against a lower side, whereas with City, we're going out there to enjoy ourselves a little bit firstly, try and get some goals, and if we lose, it's not the end of the world, even though obviously I'm not going to take a loss. I'm not going to be happy with that. But losing to City does not have the same effect as losing to Brighton does. And I feel like at this game, where a team like City, like I was mentioning, like tactically yesterday, I was talking about how City are going to actually try to come at us. They don't have the privilege of a team like Brighton to sit back and be expected to just try to hold it to a draw. And if City were to come to Anfield and sit back for 90 minutes, number one, that would be so poor of them. That would be unexpected. Their fans won't be happy with that. And it will just be bowing down to saying Liverpool are the bigger team. And being us on this format at the moment, if there's a time for City to come at us, it's now. I think with them coming attacking at us, it's a big opportunity today. And I think we need a game like that where players are coming at us so we can go straight back at them. Hopefully we see a couple counter-attacks. The last one was against, I said Man United the other day, but it was against West Ham. With Kiri's super high ball. Salah.
Don't play it first time. Oh, love ball. I was watching that.
Oh my God, I was screaming that.
I know.
We saw in that game, we saw Salah is still there. It's still there. Salah's still got that. It feels like, I'm looking at the snow, so I'm going to use that as an analogy, but it looks like there's a layer of snow above Salah, and he keeps trying to break through that snow. And as soon as he gets through it, he's going to be Salah again. And I'm hoping the game like today is going to be that break in the ice.
The magic Mo show.
That's Mo Salah, though. He does that against West Ham, and then he misses that against Brighton. There's no better definition for Mo Salah, in my opinion. He is what he is. I've learned to accept it. He's effective. He does some crazy things. He does some other things. He is what he is, and he just works perfectly for us. So today he's looking at Zinchenko, and I think he'll be, I wouldn't say licking his lips because he's not the type of player. I don't know why Liverpool fans think Mo Salah is like great at beating players one-on-one. He's always looking, as your dad said, for the ball in behind. That's what he's always looking for. But I think he'll be looking at that and he'll be thinking, I'm going to be making runs non-stop in behind him because it looks like they're playing Rodri and then Silva and Gundogan. So it looks very attacking. So that's what we want. So sorry, Darren, I interrupted. On you go, mate.
No, what I was saying was we don't want today. We're talking about if we were to lose today, obviously it's 10 points with City, then there's a game in hand. But the record today is we haven't lost 3 league games at home at Anfield in a row since 63. So that's going back 58 years. That'd be awful to have that, especially with how things are going. I don't think that's going to happen. And that kind of gives me something. We're not going to get into that record today. City haven't won in 18 years at Anfield. Aguero's never scored at Anfield in the league or Sterling for them. So there's a lot to play for today, lads. I'm confident enough today. I really am. And looking at the lineup, I just have that good feeling that it's going to go our way today. But hopefully I'm right.
Mate, fingers crossed, toes crossed.
Yeah.
Crossed for this game.
But, you guys be happy?
Absolutely.
What's that?
Would you be happy with a draw?
Nah, I need to go for it today.
Yeah, a win, I think.
I'll be honest, I know this sounds weird. It all depends on how the game goes. Because if we go 1-0 up and they were to score 90th minute, I would be extremely upset with a 1 point.
That's with anything.
let's just say the game we're 1 or 2-0 down, and we manage to get back. I'll be over the moon with a draw. But if you're asking me now, I want. What's that?
I would take a draw.
Fair enough.
Fact, 7 points, you can claw back. You can't.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus, it's a good point. It's a good point.
And it's psychologically as well, isn't it? City's first win in 18 years if they won. But you're right, 7 points you can't claw back, and it will still mean we're unbeaten at home against them. So there's a couple of things there we could use, but I think it's definitely a must win. But I understand why you'd be happy enough to take a draw also.
I wouldn't have said that yesterday, but then after the game last night, because if we drew today, United would love that, but they drew. So yeah, I'm happy about that now.
They will just force me something.
Even better because what happened to Man United yesterday with the last minute 3-3.
That was unbelievable.
Circle, and I want to ask you guys your prediction for today's game. I'm going to start with my dad first. Predictions for today.
I do believe, from seeing the lineups, I do believe we're going to score 3. I think it'll be 3-1 or 3-2 to us.
Yeah, Conroy?
I think it'll be, actually, there'll be quite a few chances, but I don't think it'll be as end-to-end. I think it'll be 1-0 Liverpool. Both teams have chances, and I think maybe, I'd say Gini Wijnaldum, but I think I'm going to go for Jones 1-0 or Mane 1-0.
Okay, interesting. And Darren?
I'm going to stick with what I said, 2-1. Magic Mo goal, and Curtis Jones get the winner, 2-1 Liverpool. Hopefully.
We're on the Jones train, Darren.
Yeah, we're on the Jonesy today, yeah.
But my prediction for today is 3-2. I think it's just going to be a high scoreline because City have no choice but to come at us. But here's one last question before we wrap this up. In recent games, Pep Guardiola has seen that we are struggling against defences like Brighton, like West Brom and stuff like that. And he's seen what impact that can have on the Liverpool team. Do you think rather than fighting our attack, if they were to go 1-0 up, for example, they would try to neutralise our attack in the same way that Brighton or West Brom did? Do you think that Guardiola do you think he's going to allow it to be a high-scoring game, or do you think he would rather keep the game as slow, as neutral, and as dead as possible so that his side can try and nick a little win or something like that?
Do you want me to answer?
Don't I? I'll go for Conroy because his lips are moving.
I would. I'd said in a few different streams, I do think Guardiola has adapted quite well. I don't think he would do like a Brighton or a Burnley, but he has, not last season, but in the season before, he was quite good at. I think he played 2 defensive mid and he neutralised the game a bit. But from that lineup, it looks like he's going for it. I might be wrong. He might be putting Rodri and Gundogan quite deep, but I know Gundogan's been playing quite attacking, so it looks like he's going for it, to be honest. So he has got a habit of overthinking, but I don't know. I feel like he's accepted that Anfield's one of those grounds that he can't play his normal style. He can't just go. So I feel like you might have a point there in the sense of if they're in a good position, he's not going to play a low block, but I think he might move one of the midfielders back. Possibly. I could see that happening.
And I have one last question for all of you lot before we completely wrap this up.
Just on that point, I think he might do that because that's why he's played Mahrez and Sterling.
Good point. So you think he might play Gundogan and Rodri? That's a good point. I've not seen the actual lineup, just the written one, but
I think even leads into maybe why he took Walker out, because maybe Walker is kind of clumsy at the back and they need a bit more of a discipline back.
Aye, he is. Yeah. He's so fast, though. It's actually every time. I know I say that every time, but I don't know if you actually watch Walker. He could honestly he should be the best right back in the world because his recovery speed. If he was even just like decent defensively and thinking wise, he could be the best right back ever because his speed is exceptional.
For your birthday, I'm just going to buy tickets to watch Kyle Walker sprint.
Honestly, but like, do you remember that one at the Wembley when Salah lobbed the keeper and he caught that? Like,
he cleared off the line.
Sometimes you've got to say, like, thankfully he's not that great thinking wise, because I actually think he'd be unstoppable if he was, because the guy, he's terrifying. If he was good at defending, he'd be the best in the world, but he's not, unfortunately.
So I wanted to ask last question before we wrap this up. If your choice, I'm going to start with Darren this time. If you had to choose between back-to-back Premier League wins or a Champions League win this season, which one would you go for? Well,
winning the Premier League was brilliant and it was unbelievable. Obviously, first time I've witnessed doing it, but there's always something just extra about the Champions League. I don't know, it just puts you in a different category. It's more unique. It's just your more recognition. I would always say Champions League, and I was saying that before I won a league, but I was always getting a bit of stick. Well, you haven't won one to see it, and it'd be different. It's a good question. I would love number 7. I just think to have 6 European Cups where we're at is unbelievable. We've the third most in Europe. We've just so much affection with that European Cup. We always have. The European nights are extra special. We've always just been more up for that, always done more, always been better in that and established ourselves better than we did in the league, obviously in the last 30 years. I would love a back-to-back title, though. I think to win one is great, but to go and just be able to say we've done another back-to-back would be phenomenal. But I think this season we might have to just hope and pray that's going to be a 7th European Cup. But if we win today, that could all change. But this season, the European Cup, so if I'm going to go for a 7th, absolutely.
Fair enough. Conroy?
No, I'd say, not to be negative about the league, but I feel like if we get past Leipzig in the Champions League, the way our season's been going, we can really get up for the bigger games. I get fed up saying that, but it's the truth at the moment. 100%. So because of the Champions League and the way it works, I do think we've got a reasonable chance. And I would say as well that, I don't know if you've watched the other teams, but there's quite a few teams in form that if we can maybe avoid Atletico Madrid, who's they're our kryptonite really, and then now they've got Suarez on form as well. So I feel like there actually is a chance for the Champions League. I think if we get past Leipzig, we could really get the confidence up for that. So for me, I think the Champions League is realistic, and so I would go for that. And then I think we're going to have a big summer, touch wood, and then we can look to the Premier League. But as your dad says, I'm getting sick of Liverpool fans getting annoyed as well, and maybe joking about the Klopp out things. This is ridiculous, right? I know I'm not as old, but we've all had the Hodgson. You know, then we've had even the Rodgers. I mean, there was some horrendous defensive displays in that team as well. And then Klopp has chose us and has done what he's done. I think this is where we need to show why we're Liverpool fans and we're not just like the keyboard gangster fans out there who, when it's like not going our way, we just turn. That should not be the way it is. And I'm actually getting quite annoyed at that as well. So I feel like, you know what? Forget the Champions League. Even if we don't, and that might be horrendous, do you know what? We've got one of the best managers in the world. We take the summer, we have a rethink, and then we go again. Do you know you can't win it every year, and I feel like there's it's social media mentality. Everything's got to be instant. That's not how it works. That's why winning the league felt amazing because it was such a way.
Yeah.
You know?
Spot on.
Dad, Champions League or Premier League? What's your?
Because it's in Istanbul. I've sacrificed the Premier League for a Champions League this season.
Your dad is on the facts. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Fair play, mate.
It was 16 years. It took me 16 years to burst out crying. I was just, you know what I mean?
To that.
So yeah, only because if it was any other season, if it wasn't in Istanbul, I'd want a back-to-back Premier League. But because it's Istanbul, Champions League any day.
Do you know, for me personally, all this whole time I've been saying to all sorts of that the Champions League, you guys don't understand what the Champions League is to Liverpool. It's incredible. It's like no one has even if like, let's just say Arsenal, Tottenham, whatever were to win the Champions League, they just won't have the same experience as us in winning it. And I think going to Madrid, going to Kiev, and all that sort of stuff has made me love the Champions League so much. But I feel there's some sort of dominance in winning the Premier League back to back, and especially if we could win it in a season like this where we've had all the injuries, where City have now taken like a 6-7 lead or whatever it is, and we let Man United go at the top of the table for a bit, and we've had this slump in form. If we were able to fight this back and go and win the Premier League, I think it would be a big slap on the face of our opponents. And I feel like it would be a big thing to do that. But then also Istanbul Champions League, it would be a lovely one. But saying that...
That's the double this season. First kid you're having has been called Jurgen. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl.
Do you know what? I want to say now, but Conroy, you brought up the whole Klopp out thing, and you're right. It really pisses me off. Like, it gets on my nerves. And the thing is, look, for me, it's all good having my YouTube channel, but I've realized a lot of my followers are international followers, and a lot of them have joined my channel since Liverpool won their 6th Champions League. And I'm assuming a lot of them are new fans, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
no, of course not.
I don't think they need to learn the culture of the club a little bit. And the thing is, I've been receiving Instagram messages on my Instagram DMs from people that watch my videos saying, do you think it's time to get rid of Klopp? Like, I don't think these guys realize
shocking
in a row. 7th and 8th place. Like, we went through some really hard times. Like, I remember my dad took me to watch Liverpool Trabzonspor, and I swear, I would have taken a bullet to the head rather than watch that game because it was difficult and horrible to watch the game. Even worse than that, watching Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-finals. The thing is, there's just no one to look up to. There's no one to look for. We got taken apart by Benteke, who doesn't even know what a net looks like at the moment.
With Balotelli.
Yeah, oh my God. I don't think some of these fans
Suarez out, Balotelli in, 3 goals or something he scored in a whole season.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah, just
And the
does.
thing
I
is,
don't like it. Yeah.
We used to have a backline with Julian Dix and Neil Ruddock. It was like we were going to war and not wanting to play football. That was in the 90s. So
Yeah,
some of these fans, they just don't appreciate the quality of players we have and the unity that club has. They're a family. Klopp's a dad and they're a family. And that's one of the best things that we've got going in that club. And that wears off to our fans, because when you go to a Liverpool game, you feel like you're part of a big family. And that feeling is what football is about. And this is why, I mean, I saw his video today and I got withdrawal symptoms, almost burst out crying. I would give anything to go to Anfield and just stand there and watch a game of football.
No, it's cracking. I think Klopp as well, like, people remember that there was fans leaving early. Klopp has called out fans. I don't know any managers, right, who've got that aura to do that. And it's like he's called fans out. He said, no, you need to do better. I think he said Liverpool's the quickest one you can leave. You don't have to leave early. You can stay quite late. He's questioned fans, and it's like he's built. I'd say he's up there for the reason. He's definitely up there for the reason. There's such a reinvigorated feeling with the club, and obviously international fans, you want that, you need that, it's great. But what I would say, it's like with Klopp, some people say, you know, in Chelsea with Lampard, you can't replace a full team, right? I would go out on a limb and say Klopp is the most important thing, because Klopp and his team could get another player. But I would also argue that, see, with things like Klopp has instilled a style of football, right? Now, the biggest problem I have with some teams is they just reinvent the wheel. But see, if you keep the style and then you just, maybe Klopp leaves in 24, but you get someone else in who's ready to pass on. Like if you got a job, you'd pass that over to someone else. I think Liverpool have got a chance now to, if they want to stay where they are, it can't be a hatchet job. Someone else comes in, do it now. And it's not even a dig at teams like Chelsea, because I get annoyed with Chelsea fans. You've done that for 20 years. You've been successful. Don't come crying now because Lampard left. That's the way you've done it. And that manager, he doesn't make, I'm sure he makes some money, but that's he wants that team to do well. So that's why he changes the managers. Liverpool, the way we're ran, the best thing is to pass it on. And these shouts, actually, I know I'm saying I'm annoyed, but actually upsets me, because I do not think people understand that we're watching. I know I say it all the time, Safe, but see, like a Britannia 6-1 for one of our greatest players' last games, and then a Crystal Palace 3-1 loss at home in his last game, and he's doing the farewell speech, and I'm like, this is not how it's meant to end. I don't forget that, and I think too many people are forgetting that right now. Klopp chose us. People need to remember that. We wouldn't be here without Klopp. So
and some people say he's wasted as a football manager. He could be anything else in the world, and that just sums him up, really, doesn't it? If he was a president somewhere, and how he'd run things, and on a shrewd budget, how he just gets motivating people. You just, everything he says is just gospel, isn't it? He's like a god on Merseyside, and he's probably been, like, obviously I've only seen videos and clips of Bill Shankly, but he seems kind of someone near enough to him where the people just love him, and he just makes the people happy, and he's making any half-hearted Liverpool fan at the moment happy, because what he's implemented, how positive he is, he says the right things, just gets the best out of a lot of even sometimes average players. You know what I mean? Like, he just says all the right things. What he does, he's so humble, and we are blessed to have him. We could not have handpicked a better manager that is suited to the institution of Liverpool Football Club.
Definitely. And I feel, do you know what's saying that? There's some managers that have come to Liverpool in recent times, and why they haven't worked with the club is because they don't have the expertise that Klopp has in the sense of understanding people. And Klopp came from a club like Dortmund that has an incredible culture as well. And he came to Liverpool and didn't just look at the pitch. He didn't just look at between the four flags, but he looked at the stands around it, and he looked at the city around it as well. And I think that the thing is, I remember that West Brom game where we drew 2-2, and he went over to the fans, and we were bound to them and everything. And I was thinking, like, okay, like, I love Klopp, but this is just wild. Like, I was just like, this is just crazy. Like, I'm so glad we've got Klopp. We did that with Dortmund, but what is he doing? And you see, it worked. Like, honestly, I'm not doing this to self-promote my own video or whatever. But
he understands people. He understands people. He understands humans.
Okay. But look at the game, yeah. Just look at the Anfield Stadium, yeah. I don't know how to get the volume on this.
What a goal that was!
But
fabulous from Fabinho. goal. You could hear the net rattle after that.
Oh my.
Yeah, you actually, because I think it hit the camera bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
But see that the funny thing is, Safe, and I wanted to ask you and your dad, right? Because I wasn't at that game and I was watching that game, right? And because of VAR, right, Trent actually seeing the TV, it was quite obvious, like genuinely, you're like, that's a pen, right? At the stadium, did you see that or did you not know about that?
Oh, I had no idea what was going on. I saw the
Honestly,
running around the ref, and obviously after celebrating, you're not even looking at the pitch anymore. You're just going
of
absolutely
course
mental.
not.
And then I looked at the pitch and I saw the City players surrounding the referee, and I'm thinking, what are they appealing? And then everything at the stadium's gone quiet for a second. Everyone around's asking that what's going on, and everything. And someone said that they had a notification that there might be a handball. And I was thinking, Mane just played the ball in. It's come back out to Fabinho. Where was there possibly a handball? Obviously, I had no idea until I got home what actually happened. But
So it was strange because some fans at the time didn't know the rules, so I was like, not all the rules. So I was like, I'd saw it and I was like, that's going to be a pen. So as soon as Fabinho scored, I was like, no, they'll cancel that because they've done it in Europe. They'll cancel a goal, and I was setting it.
Yeah.
So when it eventually got given, I was jumping about. But at the time, I was just like, I didn't know what to do.
yeah,
VAR, mate, VAR. What's the
celebrate
name?
that goal twice, and it was such a good goal. It deserved 2 celebrations, didn't it?
Oh, it's
So,
amazing.
just quickly, where we were speaking about Klopp,
Yeah.
you know, frankly, when he was a manager, even when Bob Paisley, a team like Nottingham Forest came in and they won the league of us. They then won the European Cup. Great managers, like people will speak about Bob Paisley, like absolute legend. What a successful manager he was. But he had his ups and downs. It happens. Klopp has adopted the culture of Liverpool Football Club. And this is why he's successful, where no disrespect to Brendan Rodgers or any other managers, he didn't adopt our culture. He's adopted the culture of the club. He understands that that city and the people in that city, the people that support that club, their life revolves around that football club. He's adopted that as a culture. And this is why he's brought unity, love, success, and a relationship. And long may it live us. I hope Klopp's there till 2030.
Same here, mate.
Yeah, because I know we're winning things. We will consistently, with a manager like that, keep winning things because everyone's happy.
But yeah, guys, we've got 20 minutes until kickoff.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get some food in so I've got enough energy to celebrate the 3 goals to pick up today. Darren, where can everyone find you? All 5 of them.
Well, look, I'm on Instagram. I'm not on YouTube at the moment, working on a few things. I do be also on the COP TV, the AGT has after games fan preview. So you were on it lately, Saif. So I don't know whether he'd be back on it or not, but if anyone wants to get on it, get on to them after it's live reaction straight after the game. So sometimes you can be not be digest things. I should have said no. Yeah.
Such an YouTube channel.
Sorry.
Yeah, you've got such a good insight into the game and everything. You need to get that YouTube. We need to see.
A couple of people have said it, so it's something I'll work on. It's just, I suppose, making that first move. But thanks for having me on, Saif, and best of luck, lads. Enjoy the game.
Definitely.
Pleasure, lads.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I was saying Conroy. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, it's @ Conroy H on Twitter, mate. That's where you can find me now.
Right now, yeah. And Dad, if you're in, where can they find you?
You can't.
Telegram.
Anywhere.
Fair enough, mate. Off the grid.
Yeah. Honestly, guys, thank you very much.
Guys, love that.
All the best, Saif. Take care, lads.
Thanks,
Enjoy the game.
See you.
Bye.